What is going on, guys? Chip here. Welcome back to another Pokemon TCG video where I'm joined by three very special guests to discuss the upcoming 2018 Memphis Regional Championships. Up to the left, we have Grant Manley, then Riley Holbert, and Jimmy Pendarvis. I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves, just tell us their name, where they're from, and then like a little bit of their background in the Pokemon TCG. So Grant, if you want to start us off.
What's up, guys? My name is Grant Manley. Play in North Carolina, pretty close to Chip, actually, and I play for Team ARG. And yeah, that's about me.
Perfect. Riley?
All right, what's up, guys? My name is Riley Holbert. I play out of the Columbus, Ohio area, but you'll see me all over like Ohio, Indiana, and Pennsylvania. Last year, I had some pretty awesome achievements. It was my first full year playing. Got Day 2 of Worlds, Day 2 Nats. And I'm really excited to be playing in Memphis this year. I just whiffed Day 2 in Philly, so hoping to step my game up a little bit.
Sure. And Jimmy.
Yo, what's up? I'm Jimmy Pendarvis. I play in the stacked Orlando area. We've got a lot of the top 16 down here. I've been top 16 in North America for the last 2 years. I Day 2'd Philly. I was Day 2 of Worlds, got top 16 there. So been having some good tournaments recently and hoping to keep it up in Memphis and not play Greninja again. So they're already off to a better start to play that.
Yeah, we were just talking before we started recording, and Grant brought up that he, Jimmy, and I, all three of us played Greninja at Memphis last year, and all of us had a terrible time at that tournament. So Riley, however, made a better decision and played Zork Lycanroc and actually got Day 2 right, or top 64?
Yeah, I got Day 2.
Day 2, yeah. So he made a little better decision than the rest of us. So we're, as I mentioned, we're going to be discussing Memphis Regionals coming up this weekend. Excited to get to go to the tournament. And we're going to be running over some of the decks that did well this past weekend at the regionals over in Germany, and just kind of how those results affect our meta. We're also going to be looking at the results from Philadelphia regionals, the first regionals over here, and just kind of talking through all of that. So right off the bat, we'll start with the deck that actually won in Philadelphia, going for a little further back than the Germany regionals, and that is Caleb Gedimer's Buzzwole Magcargo Weavile Garbodor deck. I think a lot of people just kind of deemed this the deck to beat, or maybe best deck in format, kind of moving forward out of Philadelphia. So where do we think that deck kind of sits now in the meta? We can start with Riley on this one.
Well, obviously the deck is getting a little bit of hate recently. The Sylveon and Steelix are pretty much decks that just entirely stomp on the Buzzgarb deck. But I still think it's just such an insane force to be reckoned with. Like, you can have just terrible turns for turns on end versus Zork, and then all of a sudden just, and then just all of a sudden, like, blow them out of the field just with, like, a Sledgehammer turn or a Beast Energy Choice Fan, which that alone knocks out a Zork, which is just, like, insanely dumb. So I think the deck's still well poised, and it might have to adjust a little bit to find answers to mill, but overall it's just incredibly strong and still the defining deck of the format.
Grant, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's a good deck for sure. I wouldn't play it because I find it a little underwhelming when I'm playing it, but it's still all right. It definitely loses hard to mill, like Riley was saying, but you're not going to hit, too many of those probably. I think it's less popular than it was like for Philly for sure. So like I don't think you're going to see as much of it as Philly, but it's still going to be around. It'll still it's still a decent deck.
Yeah, that's
Trash
a good point. Like
Trash Lance is still good, but Sledgehammer's still good, but it's not. I don't think it'll be quite as big.
Yeah, that was a good point too. Like it was the most popular deck at Philadelphia Regionals. It was the most represented in Day 2 as well, and obviously ended up winning the event. Jimmy, do you think that would be the case again? Do you think we'll see it be the most popular deck, or are we going to see more?
Yeah, it'll be the most popular deck for sure. The deck's really good. I don't really like playing it, honestly. I don't feel like I have too much input on the game. I'm kind of just sitting there attaching energy and attacking. I mean, there's decisions to be made, but it kind of feels like Buzzrock, where it's so good that you have to play it, even though things can really go wrong and all the games aren't in your control. But the counters can't really guarantee a win against it. Only the mill decks, which have their own set of problems. So I think that we'll see a little bit of mill, and you might play against a little bit of mill if you're Baby Buzz Garb Shrine, and you'll lose to them, but you'll be fine against everyone else. So
Yeah, and we've all kind of brought it up now at this point, but that is Mill, the deck that won the Germany regionals. Sylveon GX, I think, kind of came out of nowhere. One got, I think, didn't even top 64, got day 2, but didn't make top 64. One of mine and Grant's friends, actually, Eddie, with the deck in Philadelphia.
He had some really bad matchups in day 2, but I almost played Sylveon for Philly, but I last minute cold feet. But when I say Mill, I'm just talking about Sylveon and Steelix kind of collectively. I know they're pretty different decks, but
sure,
yeah, but
same general strategy,
right?
Yeah,
and definitely fit into that same category. But with Sylveon winning the event, do you guys expect it to see a huge amount of play now at Memphis? How does that affect how it's going to be played, and how does it affect the cards that people decide to put in their deck? Will we see people playing a Rangaroo and things like that? Jimmy, you want to start us off?
I mean, we'll definitely see some people playing Mill. Some people just really like Mill, and now that they have seen Xander's crazy deck or Sylveon just popping back up again, they might hop on that train and play it. And then we'll see other people that just think it's a good idea. They'll hop on, play it, but for the most part, I feel like most people don't play those decks and don't like playing those decks, and they'd rather just attach energy and attack. So they probably won't be playing too much Mill. You might play against one or two, but I don't think it'll be that insane. I think we'll see a lot of Rangaroo. I think almost every Zork deck will play Rangaroo. And we'll probably see other cards to go with that, like Rescue Stretcher and Switch or Escape Rope. That's about it. Yeah.
Riley, any input there?
Yeah, I think you'll actually see more answers to Mill than you'll see straight up Mill decks. You'll see Zork decks playing the Rangaroos, maybe even the Baby Buzz decks will be playing a Rangaroo, which I don't even think might be worth it, but you'll see people trying it.
Sure.
I don't know. Mill to me is kind of underwhelming. You also take a pretty rough matchup to Rayquaza. If you actually watched the finals, it felt like Rayquaza actually should have won all 3 games in the finals, but it lost on time technicality and misplay. So I don't know. I just don't think Mill is tournament ready right now, especially after winning a big tournament is the worst time to play Mill, because that's when people are oh no, Mill, give me a Rangaroo for stat.
Yeah.
Anything
very
to add,
true.
Grant?
Yeah. Well, if Frankfurt hadn't happened, then I would have expected 0 Mill for Memphis. But now that obviously it won the tournament, so people are going to play it. I definitely agree with Jimmy and Riley that Rangaroos, every Zork deck's playing a Rangaroo. Well, I don't know. They might. I would expect them to. And then if I'm playing a Zork deck, I'm playing a Rangaroo anyway, because it's kind of useful even outside of the matchup sometimes. But yeah, there's definitely going to be some. I pretty much agree with them. There'll be a little bit of it. I don't think it's going to win. I don't think it's going to win for sure. I don't even think it's going to top 8, but it'll be there.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, and we'll move on from there. A deck that Riley actually kind of just mentioned, the one that got second, maybe should have won Frankfurt, but did get second. Rayquaza Vicavolt had a lot of good placements as well in Philadelphia. And Riley, I know you played it yourself as well, so maybe you could give us a little bit of insight about this deck and where you think it sits currently in the format.
I think the deck's insanely strong, and ironically, I think early on in this format, it had a really good Zork matchup, but as the format has progressed, it's taken a worse Zork matchup as you take away the choice bands and stuff to beat the Buzz Shrine decks. You take a lot of resources out that are good in Zork and make the turn 2 Vicavolt slightly less likely, but you just totally stomp on Buzzgarb. A good Rayquaza build with Lugias and Delmais should never lose to Buzzgarb, in my opinion. And that was reflected really heavily in our testing results. I think the deck's overall really strong. It can beat almost anything some amount of the time. If you get turn 2 Vicavolt, you're probably going to win a large amount of your games. And if you whiff Vicavolt for 3 turns, then you'll probably lose all of those games. And that's just kind of the risk you take with the deck. But I like the built-in consistency of Tempest. I think there's a lot of cool cards in the deck, Volkner's is really nice and consistent with the deck. You almost don't need to draw once you get Vicavolt out, which is also really cool. So I think it's just going to be a force to be reckoned with. You'll see good placements with the deck. I don't know how well represented it will be because people seem to be really on Zork right now. But I would heavily consider the deck at Memphis myself.
Jimmy, got anything to add about Vicaray?
I hate Vicaray so much. I hate playing with Vicaray. I hate playing against Vicaray. It's so frustrating to play against because you'll judge them and they're drawing their 4 on like a high horse, ready to candy Vicavolt, and it's just so luck based on drawing. It's so dependent on drawing rare candy and Vicavolt too. So I hate the deck. I won't play the deck for sure, and I hope to avoid playing against the deck. But we'll see how it goes.
And Grant, I know in Philadelphia you played Vicabulu actually, as opposed to
Bulu gang.
Bulu's pretty cool though.
I think Bulu is a very slightly less consistent Rayquaza. Very slightly less consistent, but with a much better Zoroark matchup. My opinion on Rayquaza has changed a little bit. I used to think it sucked, but now I think it's actually pretty good. I think it's a pretty good deck. It's annoying when by turn 3 they've got 20 energy on their board and they're one-shotting everything. So you gotta respect it. I'm not gonna play it like I understand where Jimmy's coming from. Every single time I've ever used Stormy Winds with the deck, I've hit 1 or 2 Recycler off every single Stormy Winds. So that's kind of left me a little scarred by that deck. I guess Bulu, it is relying on hitting Candy Vicavolt. So I feel like a lot of it's out of your control with Rayquaza. I don't think there's a lot of decision making in it. And yeah, it's pretty luck based, but it's a good deck. You have to respect it. And as far as if it's going to be popular, yeah, it's going to be probably about as popular as it was in Philly.
For sure. So I know, Riley, you and Andrew and Natalie and the rest of your group played Shining Lugia as opposed to Delmise in Philadelphia.
I agree with that. Yep. Sorry, you didn't ask me, but yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people. I think the list that the other popular list from the event that Jose Marrero and Isaac Miloski and Franco played 2 Delmise, no Lugia. Do you think that Lugia is a better inclusion in that deck over Delmise, or do you think there should be a split between the two? What was kind of your thought process heading into the event about that, and where do you think it sits now?
I'm actually very strongly opinionated about this because it's been talked about a lot in our testing group. I'm very strongly of the opinion you should play 3 answers to Baby Buzz, and you should play 2 Lugia and a Delmise.
Okay. 1
Delmise is good. It can one-shot a Lycanroc. It can, for 3 energy attack, which is useful. But Lugia is just so much better as a card. It resists the fighting. It has just a really awesome 3 energy attack as well. Really efficient, no drawbacks and its drawback on the 130 attack is basically irrelevant in the Vicavolt deck as well. And you see it reflected too in the results. I was looking through some of the successful Frankfurt decks that were posted that played 2 Delmise, and you'd see their matchups against Baby Buzz Garb, and it would just be loss, and it would be 3 times in a row they would loss to Buzz Garb with 2 Delmise. So I don't think 2 Delmise is an effective answer at all. The drawback in the attack is just too substantial to be able to continually chain them without burning items. If you play Stevens and Lugia, some people don't play Stevens, that's fine, it's whatever. But if you play Volkner and Lugia or whatever, you can just get out of Vicavolt and burn 1 item the whole game and just plow through their whole board, and they can't do anything about it.
Grant, I know in your Vicabulu deck you played a split of Lugia and Delmise. Do you still think a split? So do you agree with what Riley was saying? A split like that seems good?
Yeah, I actually ran in Boo. I know it's not exactly the same deck, but yeah. Ray, Boo, whatever, they're both Vicavolt. I ran 2 Lugia and 1 Delmise as well. Because Delmise's secondary effect is so bad when you're trying to attack every turn against Shrine. So it's got 3 retreat, you gotta find a Guzma or whatever if you want to keep attacking with Delmise. But Lugia just bam, 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 knockout, knockout, knockout. It's got resistance to fighting, which is actually kind of cool against Passimian sometimes. I hit a Passimian in Philly. We're not going to see that deck ever again because it's terrible. But it was in Philly. But yeah, I like the split. I like the counters. I think you could actually get away with 2 Lugia and no Delmise. I think that's I think you can get away with that too. But
okay.
Yeah, that's definitely want at least 2 counters to Shrine.
All right.
I think you should be playing 2 Lugia and a Shaman.
Okay.
For sure.
That is another interesting tech we've seen kind of pop up. What
are your
thoughts on Shaman?
Better than Delmise. Yeah. It attacks for 2 energy, so some decks will try to kill your Vicavolt, so you can bench Shaman and put energy on it and still attack with another Pokemon, and then if they kill your Vicavolt, you have multiple attackers already set up, and then the Shaman does let you draw cards, so it's kind of a little bit of extra consistency in that kind of cluster of a beginning of the game.
So yeah, sometimes you just got to bring up the Shaman and use Flippity Flap to refresh your hand. So
I'm curious, what mostly at Riley, I guess, since he's played a lot of Ray. What do you think of 1 Bulu and Ray?
I think it's okay. I've not really tried it too much myself, but It's actually curiously good in the Ray mirror as well, because sometimes you like just do not have 180, but you with the Ray, but you can easily get 180 with the Boo. That's a totally different story. I don't know. It's a good way to shore up the Zork matchup if you play like one choice band or two choice band as well. I can see it, but it's never something that I've really considered running.
All right, makes sense. We'll move on from Vicavolt, and we'll move kind of towards Zork decks. And I know Zork is, just always going to be one of the most popular decks in the room with so many different Zork variants that run around. But we'll kick things off starting with Zork Lycanroc, which I think has kind of emerged as the favorite Zork deck of most people, or by many people, the best Zork deck. Jimmy, you unfortunately bubbled out of top 8 with Zork Lycanroc, and your group with Azul and Joe seemed to like kind of innovate this new Great Ball engine that most Zork decks are going to be playing now, it seems. So where do you think Zork decks in general sit in the format, and Zork Lycanroc specifically? How do you feel about it heading into Memphis?
Zork decks are still really good. They're not as powerful and strong as like Rayquaza that can do 4 billion damage, but you are drawing a lot more cards and you're a lot more consistent. Don't let anyone trick you into thinking that Zork is not as consistent as the other decks or some nonsense. It is definitely more consistent. And if you're not playing Great Balls, you're wrong. Like, you need to reconsider for sure. Timer Ball is actually terrible. Friend Ball, also terrible. Don't be tricked by these people. If you go and the Friend Ball is sitting there and you have to Lily, it's terrible. Seriously terrible. Just play Great Ball instead. It'll be a lot smoother. You'll go faster. You'll kill your opponent's guys, and it'll be really good. So, Zoro Rock is a really good Zorak deck. It's probably the best Zorak deck. Zoro Banette with the Rock line like Rahul had and like Fabian had is pretty sweet, but I do think it's unfavorable to Zoro Rock, and they say that too, so don't think it's that good of an option. Zoro Pod is probably like the only playable Zorak deck. I think Tord's deck at that tournament wasn't even good, to be honest. Sorry, Tord. But he had like no counter to the baby decks, and he's still playing a stage 2, and it's all like just so you can play Gardevoir. I mean, he was really strong against the mill decks. He probably would have done really well if he got to day 2 actually, but yeah, I think Zoro Rock and Zoro Pod just kind of outclass all the other Zorak decks.
All right, Grant, thoughts on Zork Lycanroc?
I'm not a huge fan of Zork Lycanroc. It's a good deck. Yes, Great Ball. Play Great Ball. Play 4 Great Ball in every Zork deck.
There we go, yeah.
100% agree. No Friend Ball, no Timer Ball. Cards are terrible. Yeah, just pretty much echoing Jimmy here. I would not play Zork. I like other Zork variants. I think Zork Lycanroc, I don't know, it feels like a little clunky when I'm playing it, and I feel like it, for the amount of like good players, like top players that played it in Philly, it didn't do as well as it should have, basically. So I know there were like 2 of them in top 8, but I know Jimmy arguably should have been in top 8 as well. Rip. But I feel like there are a lot of top players that played and didn't even make day 2, and it's just, I don't know. I don't think you need the Lycanroc. And the Galissapod, like, I hate Galissapod too. I think Galissapod's terrible. It doesn't add anything.
What are you playing then? Spit it out. What do you have with Zork?
We're playing Zork, I don't know, Zoro Cargo, Zoro Psychic Boys, something like that. I haven't figured out the list yet, but we'll figure it out.
All right.
Lots of little tricks.
Riley, the deck you played last year, Zork Lycanroc, how do you think it fits in the 2018-2019 standard format?
I mean, Zork in general is just fantastic. It's consistent. Again, like, some people are under the impression that Zork is somehow not consistent because Frigid is gone. When you're playing, 12 ball cards and 3 to 4 lilies, how is that not going to be consistent on some level? You're just straight up nuts if you don't think that'll work consistently. Great Ball is good. I think Friend Ball actually is decent, especially if you're playing. I wouldn't play like over.
That's the worst ball.
I actually think Friend Ball is decent, especially if you're playing a fighting type Zork variant, because then you have a lot of flexibility over the cards that you grab. Well, actually, I think it's the best in like Zork Bayonet and Zork Arbiter, because Psychic is just so universally played. Especially if you play the Scudo. Between Dark, Fighting, and Psychic, you will hit Pokemon on that Friend Ball in almost all your games. But
you just want to guarantee it. You don't want to be reliant on the opponent.
But that's besides the point, though.
I mean, Great Ball's not really a guarantee, but Yeah. I mean,
All those balls aren't guaranteed. You know?
Great
It's all-
ball is like almost a guarantee, man.
probabilities
You'll
for
get
that.
a basic. You'll
It's
get a
not
basic
true. It's
or
not-
Zork for next turn. Dude, it's always Zorua as the 7th card. You're regretting your life 6 cards in, and then it's the Zorua, and you're like, okay, everything's fine.
You're right. You're
So,
right.
Jimmy, I'm
But-
curious. You said that Friend Ball was the worst ball card. Would you play Pokeball before you played Friend Ball?
Okay, well, Friend Ball's the worst ball out of the balls played. Friend
Okay,
Ball's
sure.
better than Pokeball, yeah.
But like Zork Lycanroc's good. It's like feel like Zork Lycanroc in default Zork deck. I'm sure everyone kind of agrees with me. That's the
I think
one
Zork
people always
Lycanroc's
default
going to be everywhere at Memphis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to be popular. It's everyone's go-to Zork deck. I don't know if it's actually my favorite. I think it offers a lot of options, but it actually is one of the worst Zork decks against like Mill and one of the worst ones against Shrine, in my opinion. I actually like Zork Garbodor a lot, which I get a lot of flack
You get
for that.
destroyed by Zoroark, man.
That's just not
Destroyed.
true. That's not true.
Yeah,
A lot of
oh my
games with the
God.
deck. Zoroark is like way better than people.
I actually think people are sleeping on Zoroark too, honestly.
Yeah, me and a couple of friends have been testing it fairly heavily, and we think it's pretty decent. But Zoroark will be the Zork deck to see in numbers. I think Zoropod is just awful, though.
Yep.
Echoing what Grant said.
Dude,
I think that makes
Zoropod,
sense.
you guys have no faith. Zoropod is like one of the only other Zorak decks that can beat Zoroark, and the only reason Zoroark is the best Zorak deck is because it smashes all the other Zorak decks. That's like its
I just
thing.
think Zoropod is just an awful deck. Like, you're trying to hit for weakness on Lycanroc and just giving up like any other semblance of a real deck in the process.
I mean, you can use Acerola really well. You can fit in Macargo in there. Guzma
All the
becomes
Zork
like
decks
a
can use
really good
Ace
card.
Roll really well.
But it's like really efficient because you just put up the Galissapod, you smash them, and then Acerola.
Doesn't add anything to the deck besides the
doesn't add
weakness. But
anything.
if your opponent's playing down Lycanroc against you without they're only going to play Lycanroc if they're winning off the Lycanroc, pretty much. So
Exactly, and they'll be winning as the Lycanroc versus anything that isn't Galissapod.
No, I'm saying against Galissapod, they're
No, I
not
understand
going to
that.
just feed you Lycanrocs.
Of course, you're stopping them from just running you over with a Lycanroc.
But yeah, Zork-
So at that
Zork's really
point,
good.
you're just a
Zork
worse
Lycanroc
Zoroark deck.
Okay, let's reel it back in a little bit. Got a little heated there for a second, but glad we've got some good opinions bouncing around here.
Don't play Zoropod, kids.
Don't play Zoropod if you're...
Zoroark's pretty good.
Okay.
Even after
I
I
end
just
up
said
playing
Zoroark will
Zoropod.
be everywhere.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it definitely seems like Zoroark will be the most popular, like almost certainly. And it seems like the deck that I don't think you should really go into the tournament. Like, would you go into the tournament? Okay, so like when you're trying to build a deck for a tournament, there's always like a deck that you're gonna take a hard matchup to, or slightly unfavored, things like that. Between like those probably 3 big decks that we've named now, like Buzz Shrine, Rayquaza Vicavolt, and then Zork Lycanroc. If you had to pick one of those 3 decks to take like a pretty tough, like a tougher matchup but winnable maybe, which of those 3 decks are you choosing going in? Grant, you can start us off.
Ray.
Any thoughts why?
No.
Just seems like maybe the one
I think I'd rather take a win
or-
against all 3 of them.
Okay.
But if I had to choose one that I respect the least, it's Ray.
Sure.
I mean, you have to respect Ray, but like, just of the 3.
It's the one that can maybe fall apart the most.
Yeah.
Jimmy.
Ray's the most inconsistent, and it's the one that's gonna punish you the least. Like, it can blow up in your face and beat like any deck, but it can also just sit there and do nothing versus any deck. And then like Zoroark, if you're like taking a bad matchup because like they can pick you off, like they will pick you off. And then like Baby Buzz,
Yeah, like
be attacking
Malamar,
with
Metagross, yeah.
Yeah, like
Those get
Nani
picked
X,
off.
the Shrine decks will just be attacking with non-GXers and trying to play. And like this, you can like, kill their Vicavolt, maybe they can't keep going, or they don't get out Vicavolt soon enough. Like they're just a Sage 2 deck, so it's just like the safest one.
Sure. Riley.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo that sentiment. And overall, just Ray is the least consistent. It'll get his game plan off the least relative to the other 2 decks. And I think it'll be the least numerous out of those 3 decks as well.
Sure. Okay. All right, so moving on from there, we can now, the deck that got 3rd place in the Frankfurt Regionals, that's the Malamar Shining Lugia deck. And then back to Philadelphia, we saw Rukan get 2nd place with his Gascan, like Turbo Malamar deck with his skateboards, the Marshadows, So we got two different kind of Malamar variants. It seems like have emerged as the two popular versions. We got the Shrine with the Shining Lugias, and then this Gascan deck with Marshadow GX. Which of these two variants do you guys find yourself preferring? And what are your opinions on both of them in the format, like where they sit heading into Memphis? Grant, you can start us off on this one.
All right. Well, I've got some choice words for Malamar, but we're going to keep it PG. Man, Malamar, I went into a League Cup with Gascan because I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. Like, this deck's awesome. And I realized you don't like make any of your own decisions, and it also is terrible.
Okay.
And Shining Lugia Malamar dead draws approximately 100% of the time. So if I had to choose one of them to play at an event, I would just stay home because I really think they're both terrible. So yeah, and for like actual reasons is they can't beat Zork. So that's all you really need, or Ray, or like anything, but mostly Zork.
Okay. All right, so Grant was a great one to start off with there.
Sorry.
Riley, what are your opinions on the Malamar decks?
I don't think Malamar is that bad. I really don't like Shining Lugia Malamar. That was a deck that my testing groups was like, that was supposed to be our secret deck for Philly, and then the beans got a little bit spilled in Brazil, and we just actually got off of it as we tested it more, because it just does not beat Zork ever, the Shining Lugia Malamar deck. But I think the Gascan deck with some modifications actually is a fairly decent deck. I think it doesn't take as bad of a Zork matchup as people say it does. But I think the biggest problem right now with Gascan is it cannot beat the mill decks without playing like very methodically, and you can actually just like auto win those decks if you just change a couple like escape boards for like switches and stuff like that, and it'll just blow them out of the water. I don't know. I like Gascan a lot as well because it can play that one prize strategy. But I think what Grant said is also very true, that you don't make a lot of your own decisions when you play Malamar. You kind of just, you Lily for 6 and you play what you got off that 6. And sometimes it's very good and sometimes it's very, very bad. So that's kind of where I stand on Malamar. It's a decent deck. I probably wouldn't play it.
Sure. All right, Jimmy, clean us up on Malamar.
All right. Malamar is like really bad. Both of them are really, really bad versus Zork. Like really bad. Riley's just wrong. You don't really have much of a fan of like Malamar. They need like such a good start and like.
But they get it. Whenever you play against it, they got it, bro.
They need such a good start, and then you need to be a little bit slower. Like if they get a couple steps on you, then yeah, they're gonna just prize race you out of the game. But I feel like most of the time you're just gonna be setting up a Zork on turn 2, and it's like hard for them to KO it right away. You can kill a Malamar or something. You can judge them. You've got a lot of options and to kind of counteract their deck. I do like the Gascan deck. I'm not a fan of the Shining Lugia deck. The Gascan deck is really fun to play. It isn't skill based in terms of like what you draw, so you are kind of at the mercy of that. But the deck was built really well. Urkan did a good job. It does turbo itself out a lot of the time and get to attack right away. So I like it. It's nice and simple, really straightforward. But it is bad versus Zork, so you're kind of wagering that for the consistency of the deck.
I'm just gonna like turn 2 KO'd by a Marsh. Like I'll on my turn 2 going first, like knock out something and they'll immediately puts me with a Marshadow. Every single time.
Just like Guzma and then bring it back up with Lycanroc and blow it up.
Yeah, you're right.
Yikes.
Got it in hand every time though.
So I think these two are definitely the most popular Malamar variants, but Ultra Necrozma Malamar has been one that's been around here and there. I don't think any got day 2 in Frankfurt, but I know at least a couple got day 2 in Philadelphia. Does that seem like something that could fare better? I think like in the past, people have kind of deemed that as having a better Zork matchup than maybe the other Malamar decks. So Jimmy, what are your thoughts on Ultra Necrozma in Malamar?
Ultra Necrozma never really felt like it was good against Zork. I think people at the beginning kind of thought it was, and then as time went on, you realize that the Zork decks can just kill your Malamars, and then you can't keep attacking. And they can like KO a Malamar. If you play Big String, they can just like KO Malamar, smack an Ultra Necrozma, then KO your Ultra Necrozma, and then they're 3 prizes ahead. And then they're just like a GX attack and a KO Malamar away from winning. And the Ultra Necrozma deck is pretty inconsistent. It needs a lot to get going. So it's not always going to be getting out a ton of NKs, and you can just KO those and leave the deck really struggling. I'm definitely not going to play it. I don't think it's a great play. I don't think it's that good versus Shrine of Punishments, even with the cute tricks like Ace Roll and stuff that people have been talking about. Yeah, I'm going to stay away from it. I doubt I'll play versus NA, but if I do, I do.
And Riley and Grant, either of you guys have anything to add about Ultra Necrozma over the other Malamar variants?
I've never liked Ultra Necrozma. I've always hated playing those metal energies and drawing them at the wrong times or not drawing them when you need them. I don't know. And I think Jimmy's kind of right. I think when Ultra Necrozma first dropped, people were convinced it had a pretty good Zork matchup because you could sneak in those B-strings and people would just be totally unprepared. But now a good Zork player knows to like take out one Malamar, smack an Ultra Necrozma once, and then go onto the B-string turn after just knocking out an Ultra Necrozma, which sets them up to win the game, like basically after that. So I don't know. I think the gimmick of it is kind of the jig is up, you know. We know what to do now. It's over.
We have the technology.
we've innovated the technology. Oh, it's over.
All right. So we will move on from there. And next up, I think one of the more interesting decks to come out. We were actually talking about this a little earlier before we started recording. To come out of Frankfurt this past weekend was the 6th place Zork Buzzle deck. So that's kind of like a partner that we haven't really seen too much for Zork, even in the last format when Zork, I think, was like, you know, the most dominant deck for sure. So what is the like kind of strategy behind this deck? Why did it perform well, and do you think it's something that we'll see, you know, uptick in play heading into Memphis? Riley, if you want to start us.
So I was looking at the list for the past few days, I guess, as it's been online, and overall, I'm not the hugest fan of it. It seems like you're really just taking an L or entirely leaning into your weakness policies rather for the Buzz Shrine matchup. But it seems like kind of the Zork deck just to totally run over other Zork decks because you have those Buzzle Dynasty Beast Energy combo to easily one-shot an opposing Zork. And Buzzle GX is actually pretty hard for other Zork decks to immediately answer. You know, it's kind of just a dangerous rogue is your one answer to a Buzzle GX, and that's that afterwards. So that's kind of cool, but it doesn't even play Devoured Field. You could obviously change that, but I think playing Buzzle GX is just kind of a liability against the Shrine decks. And the 1/1 Lycan Rock doesn't seem super consistent for trying to get that strategy off. I don't know. If you're expecting to run like 8 to 9 Zork decks, it's probably an awesome deck, but I can't see it being the best in other matchups.
Sure. Grant, thoughts?
I think it's pretty cool. I haven't actually played any games with it. I think the deck's pretty cool. I would change it a little bit. I might actually play it for Memphis, but I'll probably switch to Bulu and end up regretting doing so. But I mean, I think it's cool. I haven't played it. We'll that's really it. It might be good. I don't know.
Jimmy?
I messed around with this deck a little bit before the Shrine of Punishments decks came to light. Those decks do have like a fantastic matchup against this Buzzwole deck. This Buzzwole Zork deck would handle Zoroark very well. Yeah, it does beat the other Zork decks, but Net's kind of the only one that really has a shot, I feel like, just because they have an answer to the Buzzwole GX right away. But their Banets are weak to Zork, and, you know, you've got Field Blower, they've got Field Blower, so your guys' weakness policies are not going to be doing much. I think the deck's great if you don't expect to play against Shrine, and it's great if you expect to play against a bunch of Zork decks, but that's kind of a really ideal situation and pretty unrealistic. So it's a deck that would probably get you to day 2, but you probably wouldn't be able to win the tournament because you would run into Shrine eventually. So that.
Interesting. All right, and then one more Zork deck that we talked about. I think it's been mentioned a time or two here, but we didn't really discuss too much in depth. That's Zork Banet. Xander got top 4 with it. And it's a deck that I've really enjoyed playing. I think it's pretty solid. So I want to hear your guys' opinions of Zork Banet. And Grant, why don't you start us off?
All right, Chib's not going to like me because he knows I'm not a huge fan of Zork Banet. It was a miracle that I got top 4. And I honestly, the only thing that keeps it from being the worst Zork deck is Zoropod. Because that's got the splat.
Dude.
Anyway, yeah, it's weak to Zork, and I think you can handle, you know, Shrine with like other stuff, like maybe weakness policy, and you can also have Lycanroc instead. So, I think the Trash Lance is pretty good. I mean, Trash Lance is just a good card. So, I'm just Banette, man. I just think it's a terrible card, really, because it's weak to dark and doesn't do a whole lot of damage. Its GX tag is kind of cute, but I mean, I'd rather use Trickster and blow something up with that. So I mean, it's Zork, so it's still gonna be okay. It's still gonna work, but I'm not a huge fan of Banette in particular.
Jimmy, you got any thoughts?
I think Zork, but not with the 1/1 Lycanroc, is actually pretty good. It isn't very good against Zoroark though, so you got to keep that in mind. Maybe you could adjust the list to do so. But if you're just rolling in with kind of the 60 that Fabian used this weekend, you're gonna be a little bit rough against Zoroark. So if you expect to play versus that, I probably wouldn't play it. But it is a fun deck and it is really cool. It has a lot of options with all the different attackers and whatnot. So solid deck.
Riley, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, probably nothing too interesting to add. I think it's a very fun. Being able to move stuff around, the shady move and the rainbow energies, that gives you that extra layer of flexibility. Planning where to put your damage counters to set up these really cute knockouts. It's a really cool deck. I will say that. I don't like its Zork Lycanroc matchup at all. I think its Buzz Shrine matchup isn't as good as it feels like it should be when you're playing a card like Banette. But it's a solid deck. I mean, I kind of agree with Jimmy. If I was to play Banette, I would play it alongside something else, probably Lycanroc, just because Lycanroc is just so flat out strong by itself. I wouldn't roll up to a tournament with Banette being the only secondary attacker I would go into.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to play the deck except maybe Chip. I don't think any of the crew that played it at Philly is going to play it again. It didn't really do anything in what's it called, Frankfurt, I don't think. There was a list. I don't know if this is the same one that you guys were talking about with Lycanroc, Weavile, Banette, and Magcargo all in the same deck.
Oh, no, you guys? That's the Abomination. That's different.
Yeah.
I didn't see Weavile. I saw it have Lycanroc. I played versus Rahul at a League Challenge. He had Lycanroc, and I'm pretty sure Fabian played his 60 at the.
Fabian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Fabian got top 32, I think.
With just Banette and Lycanroc. There is another deck that plays all the stage ones, which seems a little preemptive because Ditto is not out
yet. That's pretty sweet. Have all the boys.
Yeah, it's
all the boys. No Galissapod, so that's something.
Hey, hold up! He said all the stage ones.
Yeah, there's another version that has Galissapod too. It has every single stage one.
Galissapod, Garb, Banette, Zoro, Cargo, and Weavile all in one.
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
That sounds busted.
Seems more busted when you have Ditto Prism.
Ditto Prism star.
Rainbow that Ditto Prism, and it could literally be.
You could just play a Ditto Prism, and then you don't have to play all the basics. You can just play the stage ones for the matchup you need.
I don't know.
That work every time.
I'd play that at a League Challenge, maybe.
Bust the deck.
All right, and then rounding out the decks from Frankfurt, I believe that we're going to talk about. We'll talk about Pedro Torres's top 8 Buzzwole Lycanroc decks. So Buzzrock, I think, was deemed by many the best deck of last format, and just basically totally fell off the map when it came to the new standard format. I don't think any made day 2 at Philadelphia, but Pedro got top 8 with it. So is there a chance for Buzzrock to have success? Where do we think it sits currently? I played some games with it today and was actually it ran surprisingly well, and I think it has a great Zork Lycanroc matchup since Zork doesn't have an immediate answer to it anymore like Mew EX that we had previously. So Jimmy, I know in the past you've been a big fan of Buzzrock, so how do you think it sits in the current format?
It's really good against Zork decks, but other than that, it feels pretty subpar. You're kind of waiting for them to take KOs so you can B-string, and then you're behind, and there's no real way for you to come back. Even though you can B-string, you're kind of just going to lose the prize trade and end up losing the game. So I like it if you expect to play versus Zork, but I don't think it's very good versus Ray, honestly. Might be okay versus them, but I think it's terrible versus Shrine. I feel like you're just going to lose a lot of the time. Trash Lance is really good versus you, and Baby Buzz fights with you pretty well as well, so yeah.
Riley?
Buzzrock was a deck that we tested a lot very early this season. Never really committed to bringing it to his tournament in my circle. I actually think the deck's pretty good. I think the deck takes about 50-50 to Vicare, actually, to contrast what Jimmy was saying. and it just totally blows Zork out of the water right now. Nobody's playing that Deoxys. Nobody's even looked at that Deoxys since the season started.
Brucan has.
Yeah, I mean, like, but nobody's putting that to DC Psychic Buzzle, you know.
Yeah.
It's just not happening straight up. I think the deck is actually pretty decent. It runs really smoothly with Macargo. I guess that's to be expected. And
Smoothly, smooth over.
Yes, thank you, Jimmy, for clarifying. I'm sure that was lost upon all the people viewing until you said so. But yeah, I mean, the Blood Shrine matchup is kind of rough, but if you can get Macargo online using very few items, then I think you kind of just execute the same exact strategy they're doing, but with B-strings instead of Carbador, which can potentially work out. I think Pedro said he went 3-0 in matches versus Buzzguard at Frankfurt.
I saw that.
I might have to re-ask him, but he did say he went positive versus it. So the possibility is definitely
a legend.
There.
This man's coming hot off his top 4 worlds.
You know, because you're gonna do the same exact thing they're doing, except you know you got B strings and they got Gardevoir. It's kind of just trading one shots back and forth with your babies. I think that's really good. I'm actually considering it for Memphis.
Okay. And Grant, anything else to clean up with?
All right. Well, I am just now looking at this list, and it is pretty interesting. This man has 1 Buzzwole GX, which, when you say Buzzwole Lycanroc, I was thinking like 3 of those boys, but only 1 of those. I like the DCE because the deck, one of the problems with it is it doesn't really do a good job of putting energy on the board. You have B-String, but I mean the list only has 2 of those. So I don't know. I think it seems pretty cool. It probably gets absolutely railed by Malamar, so that's not going to be fun. So it's probably like a hard 0-100 there, but I don't know. I haven't played the deck this format like at all. I used to think it was terrible because it can't put energy on the board, but I think the list looks pretty cool actually. So I don't know. I might mess around with it.
Yeah, actually, I just pulled up Pedro's tournament post in Hefante, and looking at it, like he did go 3-0 against Baby Buzz Shrine. He also went 2-0-1 against Malamar. And
what?
He beat a
Yeah,
Zork Bennett, which seems like Zork Bennett seems like the one deck that
what is this man? I need some of this Magic Spain juice over here because
I was watching
that is crazy.
And he actually played some really impressive games on stream just today versus Malamar in particular. So and the deck has a fighting shot, I think.
Interesting. So yeah, maybe we'll see some.
Yeah, maybe this deck's just broken and just beats everything. That's crazy. All right, we're playing that.
All time, right, Jimmy?
Yeah, it's fallen quite hard, but maybe it's poised for a comeback.
Maybe.
No Max Licks or no problem. All right.
So moving off of that, I think that covers basically all the like tier 1, tier 2 decks that we'll see kind of the most played throughout the event in Memphis. But there are a few more decks I want to kind of round off the conversation with, these kind of like tier 3 rogue decks that we will, you'll probably expect to face 1 or 2 of these throughout the event.
Please don't say Beastbox.
Not actually what I was thinking of. But
okay, thank you.
No Beastbox.
We can throw it out there, I guess. But the first one I want to bring up actually did have a decent, like it got top 32 in Frankfurt, and there was a decent amount of people that played it at Philadelphia, and that is Passimian. So we'll kick things off with Passimian, the basic attacker. Where do we think Passimian sits? Does it have a chance? I don't know. What do you guys think? Grant, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, Passimian, man, there's a reason it did so bad in Philly. I mean, well, I guess not a lot of people played it, but oh my goodness, Passimian is so bad. I tried playing Passimian. I tried giving another shot on PTCGO like earlier today. I'm like, this deck seems alright, and I was just getting my chest kicked in by like every single deck. Like Shrine was beating like Passimian. It's just so bad. I don't know where to begin with that deck. I can't. I have no more words. I'm sorry. I wish I could be more insightful, but it's just so bad.
Next time I have Grant on for a video, I'm gonna have to ask him before what are the decks he likes, and then we'll have him talk about those before.
Every deck is bad. Every deck is bad, but Passimian, it's not. I mean, it's not 0-100 against everything like Beastbox, but it's pretty close. All right. Yeah. That's all I really got for that one.
All right.
I don't think we'll see any of it in Memphis. I'm not gonna worry about it. I know it was Jimmy's only loss in Philly. Watkins will not shut up about that. Every time I see Watkins, he's like, "Bro, don't hate on Passimian. That was Jimmy's only loss." I'm like, okay, that's great.
Well, I mean, it theoretically should have a pretty decent Zork Lycanroc matchup. I don't know, Jimmy, you want to talk us through your thoughts on Passimian?
I mean, Passimian is definitely slightly favored versus Zork. I didn't draw energy, so we didn't really have very good games. I was kind of making really bad comebacks. I got pretty close, actually, both games with the comebacks, but yeah, he just kind of steamrolled me. I didn't get to really fight back. But the deck is really cool, honestly. You have like Coco, and then you spread onto like what you don't want to have to deal with the rest of the game. And you move it all on with Tapu Lele and kill it, and then you kind of just take 2 KOs with Passimian. So I think people don't really realize that it's a spread deck, and they don't really manage their bench well enough, and then they kind of get taken by surprise with how much damage just piled on with Shrine of Punishments and Coco, and then they get to move it all around with Lele. And it's really easy for them to finish the game from there. So I think the deck's pretty cool. I think the deck's pretty solid, but it is inconsistent and it does have some bad matchups. It's definitely going to be awful versus Mill, and then you're not that good versus Baby Buzz Shrine. I saw a lot of people saying that they think Passimian smashes it, but I think it's like 50-50. It's definitely not super favored. So,
Riley, anything to add?
Yeah, I think Jimmy kind of echoed all the things I would say. I don't think Passimian is a bad deck, but I don't think it's necessarily a good deck either. I just have not seen a game in my testing with Passimian that there wasn't like one turn that just went horribly wrong off a whiff or something.
Underground Expedition
and like sometimes that's okay. You'll be playing against a Zork deck, just you'll be doing 500 damage to them regardless if you have a couple terrible turns or not. And sometimes you'll be playing against like another one prize deck where that one turn lost you the game straight up. So that's not really the kind of deck I would play. I would prefer to have like a little bit more like agency over how my life goes at the tournament rather than just trying to pokey-nab into DD. It's not really my style. I'd rather Vulture for rare candy than pokey-nab into DD. That's all.
All right. So
yeah, I don't know about Pokénav. I don't know about that one.
So we'll move on from that. And next one to talk about Ho-Oh Salazzle. So Stefan Ivanov was really high seeded heading into day 2. Now, unfortunately, I think he said he had a little bit of bad luck go his way and then hit a couple of unfortunate matchups and didn't finish in the top 32. But there was actually a couple in day 2 of Philadelphia as well. So Ho-Oh Salazzle, where does that currently sit? Is that something you guys would expect coming into the tournament? And I guess we can actually like kind of throw Reshiram in with this. I think someone posted a list on Hey Fonte. People were kind of talking about it. I know Mahone did a video about it as well. So
yeah, that guy beat me at the cup.
Okay. Oh yeah, Riley played it at the cup. Yeah, so or played against it. So yeah, Ho-Oh Salazzle / Reshiram Ho-Oh. Where do these, like, I guess Kiawe decks is kind of what we can classify them as. So Riley, you want to kick us off since you seem to probably have more experience with these 2 decks than Grant or Jimmy does. So
I don't know, like the deck was cool. I really and my opponent. Oh. The deck also I found to be kind of underwhelming. The Ho-Oh deck, Kiawe obviously is incredibly strong when you get it turn 1. And you sometimes just steamroll a GX deck. The non-GX decks seem to be an issue. I'm looking at Stefan's list right now on my computer. I don't see like any chance of him beating like a Buzz Shrine type deck, which just kind of seems unacceptable to have like literally no way to beat them besides
or pull down.
Yeah, I really don't think you have a shot versus them either. I hate the Ho-Oh deck, and like I don't even get how it beats Zork because you're just gonna Kiawe, sure, and then you have like one attacker, and you can set up another one by just attaching to the Salazzle, but I feel like you'll just run out of energy so quickly, and you can just lose the prize race in like 3 turns of just getting blown up.
Yeah, and like the Reshiram can also, I think, part of it has 190 HP, whereas Reshiram can be knocked out by the Devoured Field Kukui with Zork, which will actually just lose you the game if that happens straight up. Unless you have like an insane response immediately. So I don't know. The deck's cool, and if you want to just turn your brain off and flip a coin and see if you get Kiawe for a couple rounds, I think is a solid deck. But putting that much investment entirely on your turn 1 is also just kind of rough in general.
Grant, anything?
Yeah, I was saying Beast Box was a 100 against everything, But Chip reminded me that there is a deck worse than Beastbox, and that is Ho-Oh. So yeah,
How does beat Beastbox though?
you know what? Maybe I don't know. I feel like it would be. I guess Beastbox doesn't have Lele, right? So that might be tough for him. But yeah, Shrine beats it. I think Zork beats it pretty bad, honestly. I mean, when I'm playing Zork, I'm never going to worry about Ho-Oh. I'm just going to knock it out, and there goes 4 their energy. So yeah, too bad for them. And then loses to Rayquaza. Vicavolt can even kill it. Vicavolt's not even supposed to attack, and even that one-shots it. That's all the decks that exist that beat it. You know what? I will say this. It does probably beat Sylveon. I think it does beat Sylveon. So if you're expecting to hit 9 Sylveon, you're probably good to go. But other than that, I don't think...
It can't even one-shot a Sylveon with Dumbbell, can it?
No, but you can get powered up so fast, you can not just donk them in like 2 turns.
Yeah,
but yeah, you're right. Maybe it's not even...
have a second they just
And then even the Steelix deck has Hoopa. And it just loses to Hoopa, right? I don't know. I haven't seen the list.
Play, like,
Metagross, will you give it that?
Shining Ho-Oh for those decks, but yeah, I still agree.
Yeah, Ho-Oh, man. I was amazed when he was 8-1 or whatever in day 1.
7-1.
I mean, it was quite the difference from him winning the tournament with Zoroark, which was actually a good deck. And he just decides to play Ho-Oh. And throws away his day 2, of course, because it sucks.
Yikes.
No, I mean, I'm not trying to diss, him. He's a great player, but I just think Ho is just very bad and that it's not going to do well ever. So
there's going to be a Ho fan watching this and just crying at this point.
I think Wishful Baton seems kind of neat, and I was surprised he didn't run Wishful Baton.
I agree with that. At the very least, play Baton if you're going to play Ho-Oh. I think
that kind of makes sense to me, is Wishful Baton. And Slazzle, I guess you have to play Slazzle. I don't know. Slazzle's got kind of a cool GX attack too, but and then the Reshiram, I maybe Reshiram, I don't know, because you can you can do a big hit with its GX attack, and then you can, if you hit the Fiery Flint, which gets you 4 fire energy, you can do that. If you get that nice little combo off, maybe that could be better. I don't know. I don't get Ho-Oh personally, but
yeah, it seems to me like, I think the way to play a Kiawe deck would be to play the Reshiram deck, because that at least gives you something. I mean, even if you go second with that deck, you can use Reshiram's first attack, which isn't too bad. If you have
that attack's kind of cool. Yeah.
So I feel like if you're gonna play one of those 2 decks, I think you should try to build something around Reshiram. I agree that Ho-Oh just seems kind of poor in general.
I know I'm trashing a lot of decks in this video. Every deck's bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Grant doesn't even like most of the decks he plays. I think he thinks most of them are bad too, apparently. But
I thought Bulu was busted in Philly. I'm like, this is the most broken deck ever. It's got an auto win versus everything. And then in day 2, I'm like, wow, this deck's really inconsistent. Whoops.
All right, so wrapping things up, I think we've covered most things. Jimmy kind of mentioned one I guess we could hit on real fast, and that's Metagross. Not really something we've seen have too much success, but it did get top 4 actually in Philadelphia. Metagross, what's the big thing's name? So
yeah, it did get top 4. So, that's crazy.
So we won't start with Grant on this one, because I can tell by that he probably doesn't have a great opinion of it. But, Jimmy, if I remember correctly, you actually played a decent amount of Metagross at the start of last season. So how do you think it fits currently?
So last year I did play a lot of Metagross. It was really good then because you could just farm Gardevoir at League Cups. And there wasn't too many...
That's facts. Big facts right there.
There wasn't too many fire decks. I went to my 101 person cup and my first cup in Florida, got second, lost to Volcanion in the finals, and then next week play versus Gardevoir top 8, Xerneas break top 4, and then Gardevoir again in the finals and just bodied that cup. So I was a big fan, but I then was thinking, okay, maybe it'll be okay for Hartford, and then there were just so many fire decks that I had to bail, and I switched to a fire deck myself. I'm actually friends with the guy that got top 4. He's a local from my area that was I was riding to a cup with him, and he was like, yeah, I'm going to play Metagross. And we were all just making fun of him the whole weekend, being like, Metagross is so bad. You're
man.
Yeah, oh yeah, he
And it
stuck
goes
to
in
us, huh?
top fours.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna play Metagross anyways. I'll show you guys that you're wrong. And then he
Oh man,
changed the
that's
list.
the worst.
Yep, he changed the list a little bit, and then he did get top four with Metagross. He was the 8th seed. I was the 9th seed.
Oh
I don't think.
no,
Yeah.
that's funny though.
Really got me there. But I don't think Metagross is very good. Sadly, Metagross is a pretty cool guy, but I think that Metagross is not very good in the current format. Like, I don't even think it's like that insane versus Shrine because there's some tricks that they can do. They can, Magma Ring your Metagross after it attacks, and if you don't have Charisma, yeah, and then there's like Weavile as well is kind of sneaky. So they have some game, and then Zork decks can just judge you and smack you, and then judge you and stop you from getting set up. So, and then Malamar, he lost to Rukin in top four, so I mean it shows that Malamar at least has a chance.
Yeah, I think Malamar's favored against it.
Yeah, so I don't think Metagross is very good, but I don't think Metagross is like the worst Pokemon, worst deck. If you're like, oh, I'm playing Metagross, then you're probably fine, but I'm not gonna play Metagross myself.
Riley?
Yeah, I mean, Metagross and I have an interesting relationship. Friend Angel, favorite local friends. He is like obsessed with Metagross GX. We've been trying to get him to stop playing Metagross GX for over 12 months now. He'll always, every time he sees a Metagross list, that's what he'll sleeve it up, and we'll try it out, and it'll always flop. And we're like, okay, now you have to put it away. Stay away for another month. Okay? But I don't know. My friend Beckett though lost his winning it to the Metagross that made top 8 playing the Weavile Shrine. So like, it does have a pretty decent Buzz Shrine matchup. Obviously Buzz Shrine does have tricks. It has tricks versus almost every deck. It feels like
Combustion for 200.
But like Metagross is pretty good against the Shrine decks in general. I'll say. I think it has some major faults versus Zork. I think Zork can actually just out heal you, which is hilarious as a Metagross deck. But if they play Ace Rolla, like 2 Ace Rolla on a Pal Pad, then they will just out heal you and also pick off your Metangs the whole time.
Yep.
So I don't know.
Yep.
It's an okay deck. Not getting judged after your algorithm feels great. So if that's the kind of feeling you're going for, then by all means play Metagross.
Sure.
Yeah, and about the out healing, I think Oranguru going into Zork decks really hurts you there too, because they can
for sure.
put up the Oranguru and then have it shuffle back in like Palpad, Double Ace Arola. They can afford to just give you a prize and then be able to heal 4 more things.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them play Ultra Necrozma or Solgaleo though, so I think they've got like obviously that's provided they actually set up, but I think they can one-shot Zoroark, at least most of them.
Yeah,
you're right. The ones that can.
Early game, hello to the cat, is to just goose with a Cosmog until that's no longer heal for the rest.
Yeah, or if you're playing a Zoroark version with like rainbows, like the Banette one, you can trickster copy the Solgaleo attack. Yeah.
Yeah, I played Zork Banette at a cup, and I played against a Metagross Solgaleo, and on turn 2 I put a Rainbow Energy on my Zoroark, and it stayed there the whole game, and because of that he could never put Solgaleo in play because it would just be a free 2 prizes. So that was pretty cool. Alright, I think that kind of rounds out just about everything. Oh, I guess one
Lapras.
more.
Lapras.
Okay.
Lapras Quagsire.
Okay, so
Busted deck.
Oh, so a deck Grant likes. We'll let you
No,
start with
I
this
mean,
one.
it's not very competitive, but I like it at least.
Okay, so we saw Joe Bernard won a League Cup with Lapras Quagsire, the Quagsire from Dragon's Majesty. I don't think we saw any in day 2 of Frankfurt, but where does Lapras sit currently? Grant, you want to start us off since you maybe if it doesn't have a 0-100 matchup against everything, what do you think?
Look, not all decks have, only Beast Box and Ho-Oh have a 0-100 against everything. So like Metagross isn't quite as bad as those. But I think Lapras is pretty cool. I haven't played it very much, but I think it's cool. Volcanion Prism Star, it's just a good card. I mean, I think everyone kind of knows that. It's got 160 HP, and it's just a big tank that spreads damage. It's so good. I think it's like actually a decent deck. It's something I might play. You got the build and collect. You got a cute little GX attack, and Aqua Patch and Quagsire. It's kind of busted actually. It's got good power. I like the deck. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it seems it relies a lot on getting value out of its EXP shares, and it seems like a lot of decks now are potentially going to be playing at least one counter field blower. We saw Caleb played one field blower. Pedro's Buzzrock played a field blower. So like, if field blower counts go up, does that how much does that really hurt its viability?
I don't think it's a huge deal, honestly. I think you're fine with Aqua Patch and just being Lapras. Now sometimes it'll bite you, and sometimes you have like a slower start, and they'll blow or knock out, and then you're high and dry on energy. But overall, I don't think it's a huge deal. I don't think XP share is like as critical. I mean, if you can't use the XP share, then you're going to rely on Aqua Patch a little bit more, of course. But I mean, it's not like a tier 1 busted deck, but it's kind of cool. It's a little, and it's fun to play. So.
All right. Last one I want to talk about. Duskmane Magnezone did get top 32 at Philadelphia. It seems like that's the stage 2 deck that's kind of, if you're going to play a stage 2 setup and go deck, it seems like people are favoring Vicavolt. But is there any, advantage to playing Magnezone over Vicavolt? Like, it seems like maybe Magnezone, like, could have a better Buzz Shrine matchup than Vicaray, maybe? I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts? Jimmy, you want to start us off?
I really don't see the advantage. I mean, Metagross is...
Magnezone.
No, Magnezone is probably a little bit better versus Sylveon, but
Sure.
you should already be fine versus it, honestly. So you're kind of just kicking the mother down. I don't really see any reason to play the Metal Rain Dance over just playing Vicavolt. So I'm not going to play it for sure.
Riley, Grant, either of you guys have things to add?
It needs so much.
It does a lot of damage. It's fun to. Some people just really Rain Dance decks because they're fun to play. And, I can't play them. I think they're pretty fun too.
Sure.
The Baby Celesteela just plows through Buzz Shrine if you play that in your Magnezone deck. Like, they actually just can't do anything to that.
That's true. Baby Steel is pretty good.
People don't realize you can actually just attach the 5 energy to that.
That's if you set up a Magnezone, though.
Right. But, it's a wildly inconsistent deck, and I joke about playing it at every single tournament because the running gag is I can beat anything if I just run really, really hot. So why don't I just play that?
All right, guys. Well, that I think wraps up everything. Unless anyone is thinking of something that I haven't thrown out there. Any other decks that we haven't talked about yet headed into Memphis?
Not really.
Yeah, I think we...
Busted Lapras can play Palkia GX and GX Attack a Vicavolt and just auto win versus...
You know what? I'm down. I don't know what else I would play. I'll just do that. Lapras Palkia.
Lapras Palkia. All right,
GX.
So heading in, as we close things out, why don't we... I know, probably a little bit more testing from everyone here is going to happen before the event actually starts to make your last-minute decision. But if you had to give your top 3 headed into the event of decks you yourself would consider playing, give us the top 3, and we'll start with Grant, go Riley, and then Jimmy.
All right, Zork something is my number 1 pick. My second pick would be Bulu. Even though it would be a mistake. I don't know. I might just go back to it because I'm comfortable with it, but it would be a mistake. And third, we'll just say Lapras because I might actually play Lapras. I might do it. Maybe.
Maybe. You heard it here first. Grant might maybe play Lapras.
Might maybe play Lapras.
Riley.
So much conviction.
Hit us with the top 3.
My top 3, my number 1 would be Zork. I don't know if it'd be Hanaka. I still really like Garb. I think it's actually a surprisingly good deck.
Yeah, I kind of like Garb too.
Second would be Buzzrock, and then third would be Vicaray, if I'm just feeling like putting it up to fate.
All right. And Jimmy, close us out.
My 3 would be Zoroark, Pod, and Baby Buzz Garb Shrine.
All right.
In no particular order.
Okay. So
Randomized.
All right. So I appreciate you guys coming on. I hope everyone enjoyed watching the video. If you did, definitely be sure to leave a like down below. Thank you guys for your insight. I'm going to give you a second here as we close the video out. If you guys have any sort of shout outs or social media plugs that you want to do, feel free. The floor is yours. We can go in reverse order of what we just did. So Jimmy, Riley, then Grant.
All right. Follow me on Twitter, Ginge_TCG. I've got some funny stuff on there for sure. Sometimes some cat pics as well. I coach on the Dark Patch, so go ahead and look at that. I've got an article coming out next week on 6 prizes, and then I do videos every week for DDG, Team DDG. Yeah.
All right, Riley.
All right, so make sure to follow me on Twitter as well. Miles, I post definitely a few more cat pics than Jimmy at the expense of being a little less funny. So, so if you're willing to make that trade-off, feel free to follow me. Also, check out my host Tricky Jim. It's another YouTube channel, awesome channel, just like Chips, both phenomenal content creators. I appear on that channel semi-frequently. And yeah, thank you so much for having me out here, Chip. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Grant, close us out.
All right, yeah, follow me on Twitter as well. I write for. I don't post cat pics because the only good cat is a dead cat. But but I do. Also, Poke Beach, write articles for Poke Beach and play on Team ARG. So ARG tournaments, pretty fun, large League Cup sort of things with money in them. So yeah, that's all for me.
All right, and you guys can also follow me on Twitter at TrainerChip, as well as Twitch and Instagram, both of those things as well at TrainerChip. So thanks for watching, guys. Definitely leave a like if you enjoyed. Be sure to subscribe so you can see more videos like this one, and be sure to check out all these guys' links. They'll be down in the description of the video. Thank you guys for coming on, and we'll see you all at Memphis. Take care.